From the editors of Cook's Illustrated magazine, it's America's Test Kitchen. With your host, Christopher Kimball. Featuring Test Kitchen chefs Julia Collin-Davison, Bridget Lancaster, Becky Hayes, with Adam Reed in the equipment corner and Jack Bishop in the tasting lab. Discover the secrets of America's foremost food testers and tasters today on America's Test Kitchen. Today on America's Test Kitchen, Julia uncovers the secrets to grilled, smoked, roasted whole chicken and serves it with salt-baked potatoes. Next, Adam reveals his pick for the perfect cooler in the equipment corner. That's all right here on America's Test Kitchen. America's Test Kitchen is brought to you by DCS by Fisher & Paykel. America's cooks rely on innovation and culinary precision. DCS by Fisher & Paykel, offering premium indoor and outdoor kitchen appliances. For over 50 years, Miracle-Gro products have helped home chefs grow fresh vegetables and herbs. Miracle-Gro soils and plant foods provide the essential nutrients plants need to grow bountiful produce. Gardening tips are available online at miraclegro.com. By Cooking.com, an online retailer for the kitchen enthusiast. If it's not in your kitchen, try ours. Chateau Saint Michel. Digital wine cellar and pairings can be found online. From our hands to your table. Recipes available at CaliforniaAvocado.com. And by Kohler. Diamond Crystal Salt, the gourmet choice. Plum Amazins from Sunsweet.
It's a nice summer day and you decide to grill some chicken and someone says, hey, we're tired of that. Let's do something different. So you say, okay, I'll smoke it. Well, if you got $300 and room in your garage and you buy one of these torpedo smokers, it's pretty easy. Easy to get the charcoal in. It's got 2 racks, place for the water, and a temperature gauge on top. But most of us have your basic backyard grill like this, one size fits all. Can you smoke a chicken on one of these and will it turn out great? Well, let's go into America's Test Kitchen with Julia and figure out how to do a great grilled smoked chicken. Well, today I thought we'd start our show with a news flash from Ms. Witherspoon.
Really?
Yes, yeah, I got your interest already.
You do?
Reese Witherspoon loves her job because she gets to, quote-unquote, make out with hot guys.
That's true.
Okay?
That's not bad.
Here's a quote from Reese. Says, someone's got to do it. It's like America's Test Kitchen. Well, not the making out part.
Yeah, not the making
but for
out
making
part.
out with hot co-stars. I love my job. They're all really good guys. I love this. And I know all their girlfriends. Well, I bet they know her, too.
Yeah, right?
Hey, Reese, stop that. So, see? She's testing out her co-stars like we test recipes.
Yeah, that's right.
See,
doing it for the girls.
We're in the culture now. Okay.
All right, so smoked chicken. Obviously, to get some smoke, you need some wood chunks or chips. We're going to use charcoal today. And when we use charcoal, we much prefer to use chunks over chips. And of course, you got to soak them because if you just put them on dry, they'll light on fire.
You know what's sad is a lot of people actually have to go out and buy these.
I do. I have to go buy them. I don't live in a big farm.
Just come to the farm and they're out back. Okay. So we're going to put them in this bowl?
Yes, please. Soak them in water. We want to soak them, for about 30 minutes to an hour. And of course, you put a little plate on top to keep them submerged. And now we're going to move on to the chicken. And the first thing you'll notice is this is not a whole chicken. These are chicken parts, which we found worked much better on the grill because you could separate the white meat from the dark meat. You can keep the white meat away from the flames because it obviously gets more overcooked more quickly. And also, you have more surface area, so you get more smoke flavor. So this is 6 pounds of chicken parts.
Okay.
And of course, we're going to brine it. Brining keeps the meat nice and juicy, even though it's going to spend a long time on the grill. This is 1 cup of table salt and a cup of sugar. We're going to dissolve it into 4 quarts of water. And once when I first started here, I made my first brine and I didn't whisk it. And I got in trouble after the end of the brining. We poured it out and there was all this undissolved sugar on the bottom. So pretty important.
We hired you anyway?
I know, you already hired me,
oh.
yeah.
Too late.
Too late. So you want to make sure this is all dissolved. Okay, that should be pretty good. We're going to slip our chicken into the brine. And you'll brine this chicken at the same time as you're soaking those wood chunks, 30 to 60 minutes. And of course, I'll put the lid on and we'll keep this in the refrigerator while it's brining. Okay. So it's been just over half an hour and we're going to take the chunks out of the water. You can see they really did soak up some good water and they're nice and moist and they'll make some great smoke. And now we're going to drain the chicken out of the brine. And of course, that brine not only makes the chicken nice and moist, but it helps keep the skin nice and moist too. In fact, that was a big problem we had with smoked chicken, is the skin got really dry and leathery. So we want to pat the excess moisture off the chicken. You don't want to rinse the chicken at this point. And then we're going to take it off the paper towels. And we're going to brush the chicken with just a little oil. Again, what the oil does is it helps get the chicken skin nice and crisp, but also helps prevent it again from drying out and looking like an old baseball mitt. So we're going to brush with some oil. And this is just vegetable oil. If you want to sprinkle some pepper on, of course we don't need to season it with salt because it's already been brined.
It's already been salted.
And we'll flip it over and obviously do the back side. There we go. A little pepper. And I'm going to wash my hands and then go out and get that charcoal started.
Okay.
Okay, perfect timing. So I lit this chimney. This chimney has 3 quarts of charcoal. It's nice and hot,
Really?
isn't it? It's ready to go. You can see its flames coming up the top. And this is kind of an unusual grill setup in that there's 3 quarts in here, and you can see there's 2 quarts of unlit briquettes in the grill. And what's going to happen is that those unlit briquettes are going to light slowly to keep the fire at a constant temperature throughout the over hour of cooking that the chicken needs.
Very smart.
Yeah. We're also going to put a little water in this pan on the other side. Now the chicken's going to go on this side of the grill, obviously, and the water will help, again, the skin from turning dry and leathery.
So that's like you're building a little smoker.
Yeah,
okay.
That's right. So we'll put our soaked wood chips right on top of the coals. So we're going to let this grill heat up for about 5 minutes, get those wood chunks really smoking. And note, I have the bottom vents open halfway and the top vents open halfway, because of course you need oxygen to keep the charcoal going, but you also want to contain some of the smoke.
You know, one of the things that really bothers me about these kinds of grills, they seem so incredibly low tech because there's almost nothing to adjust except this top vent and the bottom vent. So here's a little experiment we did. We said, okay, we'll heat up a grill like this with the vents half open for 5 minutes and measure the internal temperature. Well, it's about 340. Then we said, what if we opened the vents all the way, top and bottom, came back in 10 minutes? Well, it gained 100 degrees to about 440. And then we said, what if we had closed the vents instead, both top and bottom? Well, we lost 80 to 90 degrees down to about 250, 260. So even though this looks really low tech, these vents make a huge difference. You can get this grill down to 250 or up to 450 in just 10 minutes, depending on how you adjust the 2 vents.
So it's been 5 minutes and you can tell those chunks are really smoking. So now we're just going to clean the grill really quickly. And it's easiest to clean the grill, of course, when it's hot, just before you start cooking. You just want to scrape off any junk that's built up. Then you want to give it a quick oil down. Now just using some paper towels, and this is just vegetable oil. We're just going to grease down the grill. And of course, this is like seasoning those grill grates and keeping them in good working order. That's all that needs. So now to put the chicken on the grill, we're obviously going to put it away from the coals, over the water. And the trick is to put the delicate meat, the breast meat, farthest away from the coals. And this is why using parts instead of a whole chicken really comes in handy, because you can position the chicken from most delicate to hardiest, farthest to closest to the coals. So the breasts go on farthest, and then the drums. And then you can put the thighs closest to the coals because they can overcook a little bit. In fact, they taste great when they're really tender and just starting to fall off the bone. So breast you cook to 160, thighs you cook to 175. And that'll take anywhere from an hour and 15 minutes to an hour and a half. Skin side up, don't flip it, just let it be.
Now, this recipe may sound a little bit too easy because you may be asking, why aren't we adding more wood chunks as the cooking process goes on? Well, here's a little scientific fact that explains why we do it this way. It turns out when you smoke foods like chicken, there's particulate matter in the smoke that dissolves in water and oil. When you first put chicken on the grill, it's moist, it's wet on the outside, all that stuff dissolves and gets into the meat. After about 45 minutes, the outside of the chicken gets very dry, the water evaporates, and that smoke, that matter from the smoke, ends up on the outside, so it ends up tasting like an old ashtray. So the secret of great smoked foods on the grill is a lot of smoke at the beginning and none at the end, and that way your chicken tastes smoked. It doesn't just taste sooty. There are 2 things I never do. I never go to the beach, and I also never tailgate at football games, but I do transport quite a lot of our homegrown frozen beef and pork around, so I'm no stranger to the notion of coolers. But I asked Adam a question, which was, what about electric coolers versus non-electric? And also, are there real design differences? Are they all pretty much the same? And this is, of course, one I'm very familiar with. So I assume this is probably not going to be the winner.
This is one of 7 different coolers that we tested, Chris. They're all here. They were in different sizes, different styles, different price points, too. This Vermont-style styrofoam cooler, $4.
You can fill it with Labatt's and Jenny.
Right.
Perfect.
Some of the electric ones were a little more expensive than that. They went up to $145. Now, the thing that a cooler's got to do, obviously, is keep food cool. We did 2 different cooling tests. First, we loaded them up with about a pound of ice per quart of capacity. And we put 45-degree sodas in here, not quite cool enough to be refreshing, to see whether they would cool down any more. And then, this was the fun part. We locked somebody in a 95-degree room with all of these coolers so they could pop open a soda, 1 per cooler per hour, and use an instant read thermometer to take the temperatures. By the way, we also monitored the interior temperatures with thermocouples and our temperature tracking software to see what was going on inside.
Is this our version of Survivor?
Survivor,
Did they live?
ATK. The 2 coolers that did the best in the soda test were the electric coolers, this one and this one. And I'll open this up and show you why. What these have is an electric circuit running around the exterior that cools some of the air and runs a little fan, which is right here, to pump out some of the warm air. So these actually got sodas down to 39 degrees and they stayed cool, which was great. However, the disadvantage of these electric coolers is they have to be plugged in to work. So for someone who does go to the beach or venture more than a couple of feet from the car, you're kind of out of luck with these things because you're out of reach of the plug. The other cooler that did a great job cooling is this one. This is the California Cooler T-Rex, and I can show you why this did a good job. This got sodas down to about 40 degrees. And I'll open it up and show you that inside, this one has a zip-in plastic lining. Most of these use some sort of foam to insulate them. This has the foam as well as this plastic lining, which traps a layer of air between the foam and the plastic, and air is a great insulator. So that's why this stayed cool. Also, this one has a little hatch door on top.
Great.
Like the hatch door. But seriously, you can reach in for something without opening the entire top and letting all of that cool air out. We also tested the capacity of these things. I mean, you said that you transport beef and pork back and forth. You want to be able to fit as much in here as possible. And this one, because it's soft-sided, like soft-sided luggage, you can always slide one more thing in. This held 2 full bags of groceries, which was great. It's also really easy to transport. Not only do you have the handle so you can carry it, it's got a telescoping handle like this, and it has wheels. So it's like rolling luggage. You can just pull it right behind you, which is a big innovation in coolerdom rather than lugging that.
Right.
We did an odor retention test. This was great.
Yeah.
On a Friday afternoon, we packed these full of raw fish fillets and put them away for the weekend. And came back on Monday.
And once again, it wasn't you.
It wasn't me doing this. Opened them up, pulled out the fish, cleaned them with cleaning wipes and soap and water and baking soda, and then stuck our heads in and took a big whiff to see whether there was any odor retention. This one did all right there. So this is the winner, the California Cooler Bag T-Rex large, collapsible, rolling cooler. $65. This may replace your old Vermont style
No,
cooler.
I like it. It's got a lot of good features. So the winner was non-electric. It was California Cooler T-Rex, $65.
Exactly.
And if you wanted to spring for the electric one, the one you can't really move from the car, that's the Igloo at how much?
This one's $140, so it's a lot more expensive.
from Igloo. Well, today we're going to talk about salt and baked potatoes to find a way to put them together. But first, an historical note about salt. We like to go. You're gonna go sit down.
Hours.
Salt comes from water, from seawater, from lakes, springs that are salty. Obviously, you evaporate the water, you end up with salt, or mines. And for many millennia, humans didn't actually consume salt separately, because they went out and killed animals, and animals, the blood in animals, of course, has a lot of salt, so we didn't need it. By Roman times, of course, we had agriculture. When you're eating grains and legumes and other things, you need to add salt. In fact, salt was so important that Roman soldiers were paid in part with salt.
Wow.
And that's where the word salary comes from. Salarium in Latin means salt. Okay, so salt was added to the diet. It was also used as a preservative. And that meant you could ship preserved food halfway around the world. Salt cod, of course, comes from the North Atlantic. It was salted, it was air dried, and even today in Rome, if you look at the menu, it'll have bacala, which is salt cod. So salt cod made its way really through most of the world. So in terms of baking in salt, they take salt, water, egg whites, make a casing like for a whole fish, and bake it. It was moist, it was flavorful. And so you did exactly that. You tried baking potatoes, which is a recipe that exists in America.
That's right.
In salt, and how did we do?
Yeah, well, you know, we found a ton of recipes out there that were absolutely crazy, but we found 3 that were credible, and we gave them a whirl in the test kitchen. One, as you just mentioned, you made an egg white mixture, and you coated the potatoes in that, and then you put the salt on top. And actually, you know, it worked okay, but trying to get this off before you serve them, either at the table or in the kitchen, just makes a mess. And heaven help you if this is on your plate, because then the salt's all over the food. But it worked okay, just too messy. Now this method obviously uses a ton of salt, and in here you'll find some buried potatoes, and the interior of these potatoes was amazing, super fluffy, but the outside just got super tough and leathery. You can see it's just like shoe leather. So just, yeah, that wasn't happening.
Okay.
But the method we did like involves using salt, obviously, and this is 2.5 cups of kosher salt. You could use table salt, of course, but the bigger crystals of kosher salt make it a little easier to brush it off the bottom of the potatoes. So you see this is a 9 by 13 inch dish.
Can we just stop a second? So why not?
I know that
Why
tone
not
of
just
voice.
bake a potato? You have an oven, you have
Yep.
potatoes, you put them in the oven, been doing it for hundreds of years.
Yeah.
Why go to the trouble of adding salt?
When you throw a potato in the oven, you know, the classic methods, there are 2. One, just chuck it in the oven and let it go. But what happens is that potato gets really dried out. You lose all that moisture, and the potato shrinks inside its skin, and you get that air pocket.
Ever heard of sour cream?
Yes,
Butter?
right? Yeah. And then the other method people do is they roll it in foil and then chuck it in the oven. And of course, that's the other extreme. You have no moisture loss, and the potato comes out really wet, and that skin is super
Yeah, I
soggy.
don't like those. Okay.
So what this does is when you take, this is 4 potatoes, they've been washed and scrubbed. We're gonna put them right on the salt. What happens is it's middle of the road. There's a little bit of moisture loss, but not so much so that it's dried out. And what happens is we're gonna seal it with foil, which makes this nice environment. And in the beginning, the potato's gonna lose its moisture to the salt, and the salt will start to clump on the bottom of the potato. And then halfway through, the heat of the salt actually releases moisture back to the potato. So it gets seasoned, and you don't lose all that moisture.
This is like a spa I once went to. So,
But of course, if you throw just some herbs and a few aromatics in there, you add just a little flavor to the potatoes in a really nice, easy way. So we threw 2 sprigs of rosemary and also a head of garlic that'll roast perfectly in here right next to the potatoes. We'll put that up in the corner, and then we'll mix that with some butter for serving. So we're gonna cover this with foil and crimp it really tightly around the edges.
so the moisture goes out of the potato into the salt, then comes out of the salt back in the potato.
That's right, and leaves the potato with this really earthy, pure flavor. So into a very hot oven, 450 degrees, and they're gonna bake for about 1 hour and 15 minutes. So it's been about 1 hour and 15 minutes that these potatoes have been in the oven. So let's take a look at these guys. Oh, doesn't that smell
does smell
good?
good.
The rosemary and the garlic. So we're gonna take this garlic out of the dish now and let it cool down. Then we're gonna pop that garlic out of the skins and make that butter I mentioned. And now what we're gonna do is brush the exterior of the potatoes with a little bit of olive oil. And then we're gonna pop it back into a hot oven for about 15 or 20 minutes so that the skins get super crisp.
So oil isn't going to soften the skins, it's going to crisp them.
That's right. All right, that looks pretty good. All right, so we're gonna pop these back into a hot oven so the skin gets nice and crisp.
No, wait a minute. Now, I just want to say, because some people look at this and go, that's a lot of salt. Does it really make a difference?
Yeah.
We had the kitchen actually test this recipe,
For
exactly
you.
the same recipe. For me, I was Mr. Skeptic, and didn't use the salt. There's a big difference.
Big
They weren't
difference.
nearly as creamy inside, not as much flavor. It really did make a big difference.
Yeah.
So it's salt, fair amount of salt, over 2 cups, but it does make a big difference.
It does.
Okay.
So back into a 500-degree oven. Just turn this oven up to 500 degrees. And now they're gonna bake for about 15 to 20 minutes until the potatoes are fully tender and that skin is nice and crisp. But now we left our chicken on that grill, so we better go check it.
Okay.
All right, so it's been a little over 1 hour and 15 minutes. Oh yeah, look at that. Isn't that gorgeous?
Bronze.
Now, the way to tell if it's done, obviously, is to use an instant read thermometer. And what we're looking for is about 175 in the thighs and 160 or so in the breasts. So again, those thighs, you want them to cook to a little slightly higher temperature, so they'll be nice and tender. We'll take these guys off the grill. Aren't they gorgeous?
They are absolutely exquisite.
Ah, so beautiful. All right, here's the last drumstick. That is a sight. Isn't that gorgeous?
They look fabulous.
So of course we have to let these rest for about 5 or 10 minutes, and we're gonna cover them with foil and bring them inside while we finish up those salt potatoes.
Okay. First letter is from Cindy from Middlefield, Connecticut, and she asks, is it okay to heat parchment paper to very high temperatures? Well, here's what we found out. First of all, there's nothing toxic in parchment paper, so even if it does turn black or dark brown, it's not going to get anything you don't want in your food. Secondly, it's probably good for about half an hour in a very hot oven, at which point it will get brittle and turn very, very dark. Next up, we have a little email from San Antonio, Texas, from Elaine, who asks, I've heard that rinsing grapes before storing them causes them to spoil more quickly. Is this true? Absolutely true. We did a test of grapes with the stems on, a test of grapes that were washed with the stems on, and then just grapes not washed with the stems off, put them all in the refrigerator. The ones that had been rinsed only lasted 2 to 3 days and started to rot. The ones that had not been rinsed but had the stems off lasted 3 or 4 or 5 days. But the bunch of grapes that were not washed with the stems on lasted almost an entire month. So when you store grapes in the fridge, stems on, no washing. Ginny writes from Swansea, Mass. I bought 5 pounds of hamburger and froze it. Can I defrost it, divide it up, and refreeze a portion of it again? Well, home freezers are not like commercial freezers. It takes a very long time to freeze food at home. The slower the freezing process, the bigger the formation of ice crystals. Big ice crystals mean that the cell walls get ruptured with the crystals. What happens when you go cook food, let's say hamburger, more liquid comes out. So we did a test. We had a 7-ounce hamburger, fresh hamburger meat, frozen once and thawed, and then versus frozen twice and thawed. It turns out we measured the liquid release from all three. Fresh meat was under a teaspoon. Thawed once, frozen once, thawed once was 2 teaspoons. And then when it was frozen twice and thawed, it was actually a full tablespoon. So the answer is no. Try not to freeze your meat. Only do it once, but never twice.
Oh, those smell good. They're gorgeous too, aren't they? Skin got really nice and crisp. All right, so the potatoes are done. Now we're gonna make our roasted garlic butter. And this is 4 tablespoons of softened butter, a little bit of rosemary, which of course we have in the dish as well, a little bit of salt, and now the roasted garlic. You just wanna squeeze this right out of the skins.
Oh, that's fun.
I know, it is fun. You can squeeze it right into the butter. Oh, yum. It smells so good. So, all that roasted garlic, salt, rosemary, butter, can't go wrong.
I assume the garlic is fairly mellow at this point.
That's right, but remember, it was also baked on that salt as well, so that it has a very pure, clean flavor as well. All right, so now the chicken, of course, is rested for a few minutes. Isn't it gorgeous?
It is gorgeous.
We're ready to eat. I'm gonna pick up potatoes. And the one thing is you gotta scrape off, just with a paring knife, any salt that's stuck to the bottom of the potatoes. There you are. Oh, one for you. Now, do you want me to cut your potato open?
Sure. Oh, yes, you want to slather it. I forgot.
Here, let me put a little of this garlic butter into your potato. I'm gonna dive into the potato first. I know you're going for the meat first. We've been through this. Oh.
This chicken is absolutely squirt out juicy.
Oh, this potato is amazing.
I mean, it is incredibly juicy. You can actually see that. Look at that.
And that pink tinge means the smoke really got in there. Potatoes are my absolute favorite thing to cook.
This is the juiciest off the grill chicken. So we have 2 fabulous recipes. We started with chicken on the grill. Actually, we turned our grill into a smoker. We used brining to start off, chicken parts, of course, 2 chunks of wood, and the whole secret there was to get the smoke in early. So it gets into the bird, not just on the outside. It tastes like an old cigarette or an ashtray. And then for the potatoes, the secret was actually using salt, covering a little rosemary, garlic, taking the cover off to finish. Great moist interior, nice and smooth, and we made a great garlic butter. So there you have it from America's Test Kitchen, New York Kitchen. 2 fabulous recipes for the summer or any time. A smoked chicken on the grill and salt-baked potatoes. If you'd like these recipes and any recipes from this season, plus tastings, testings, and view selected episodes of our show, go to americastestkitchentv.com or follow us on Twitter. Tweet. I do tweet.
I heard that about
on
you.
a regular basis, and Facebook.
Yep.
America's Test Kitchen is brought to you by DCS by Fisher & Paykel. America's cooks rely on innovation and culinary precision. DCS by Fisher & Paykel, offering premium indoor and outdoor kitchen appliances.
And by Kohler, inspiring home chefs to create a professional level kitchen with innovative sinks, faucets, and cook centers. Kohler.
And by Diamond Crystal Salt for the professional chef and those who want to cook like one. Diamond Crystal, the gourmet choice. By Cooking.com, an online retailer for the kitchen enthusiast. If it's not in your kitchen, try ours. By Plum Amazins, diced dried plums from Sunsweet for amazing recipes. By Miracle Grow, the gardener's friend. By California Avocados. And by Chateau San Michel.